Welcome to the Faithful Fathering Podcast. Thank you for making the time to join us. This is Rick Wirtz with Faithful Fathering, the founder and president of Faithful Fathering, where we encourage and equip you to be a faithful father, a dad that prioritizes physical presence, is engaged emotionally, and leads spiritually by example. This is the third in a series of 3 podcasts, and where we look at why faithful fathering is important in your life and why it's such a powerful movement, or why it needs to be such a movement in churches and society. And I do want to point you to the website, faithfulfathering.org, where you can always click on the Dad Talk button to see some other history of our blogs, and where we post each week that complement these podcasts, as well as look through the library of podcasts, as well look through the history. As always, this will be a very practical discussion that I pray blesses you on your journey as a faithful father. We have Mr. Donald Mayfield with us today to talk through this topic, and thank you for being with us again, Donald.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, why faithful fathering is important is to really the third dimension here I'd like to hit in this last of our 3 series is to encourage dads to take action, to initiate that, to be intentional in the effort. A popular question I always get is whether dads should focus on quality time or quantity time. And they never like my answer because I just answer yes. And then I have to go on and explain that, think about who controls the quality. It ain't you. It is not dad. It's the kid that determines whether the quantity indeed manifests into quality. All we can do is provide that quantity. Have you experienced this on your journey as a dad?
Yeah. Well, as you were talking, I thought of times before I was really walking with the Lord, and there's regrets I have about not investing that time properly. And again, that goes back to what we were referencing earlier, different identities. And I think I was more on self at the time. But the point is, I've regretted, the things that my daughter used to do. She would have plays or other stuff. I didn't make all those, and I regret that, because what seems insignificant to us is huge for your children, and that's obviously going to set a foundation.
Mm-hmm. I have, unfortunately, a testimony along those lines that I was so busy, caught up in the world, I didn't make one event of my daughter's into the 4th grade. She was the lead in her 2nd grade production of Alibaba, and we were living in England at the time, and I was off on a business trip to Russia. And I missed it. I didn't make one parent-teacher conference. I didn't make anything. But in her school at the time, they had a high school. It was a small American school in England, and so a high schooler actually videotaped the play. So when I got back from my trip, I got to sit down on the couch. This dates me a little bit. It was on VHS, and we got to sit down on the couch. My daughter and I watched the show, and I commended her and what have you. But you know what her words were?
What's that?
Wish you would have been there, Dad.
Yeah, it has an impact.
Those are the things that you don't get back. And that's where I say, when dads, when you can provide quantity time in a number of ways. You can coach or help with a kid's sports team. Windshield time on a way to a game or an event is always good. Dating your daughter on a routine basis, and same with your son. Just don't call it a date. You're going out for ice cream or something along those lines. But how would you say that after you got through a certain window, as all of us do on this journey, how did you invest quantity time with your daughter?
Well, recently, even when I was thinking about how my daughter needed to come back from Virginia to here to Texas, just driving out there and driving her back, just a lot of time. I mean, that's 19 hours just talking in the vehicle, and just having some quality conversations, mm-hmm. some rich conversations, just letting the Lord lead, just whatever, just flowing, right? But that had an impact, stuff like that. When she was younger, quality time, just we letting her have friends over and just joking around and playing and trying to your best to just even if it's childish, obviously, because it's a kid, like you said earlier, the quantity versus quality doesn't matter, just being there.
Mm-hmm. Did you teach her how to drive by chance?
Well, I'd like to say that it wasn't me because she's still learning. No, but she. But
I hope she doesn't listen to this podcast. Only dads listen to this podcast. Daughters, right?
I did teach her how to drive. Yeah.
And how was that time?
It was scary, but it was all right. It was good.
Well, in my experience, I've had, certainly there's times where we're hanging on to things a little bit tighter, but I just found that as in a busy time of her life, it was our time together. Yeah. And while I was still intentional about dating her on a monthly basis and that type of thing, making sure we had time, which I always encourage dads to do, be intentional to date your daughter because, just opening the door for her rules out about 95% of the boys in high school. So that's a good thing. You get some of these guys, you purge these guys early. But I found that in the time we spent windshield time driving was some of the best time together. Plus, as you know, even if it's scary and always tough to let go, it gave me a comfort factor that I didn't abdicate that to anyone else. I took responsibility to teach her how to drive. Right. But it's the same with our son in going to baseball tournaments or whatever. That windshield time, we might be 3 hours and not say a word. Your guys, or we might be driving across town and something on his heart, he just shares it. And so again, I provide the quantity. The Lord steps in, and they decide whether it's quality or not. So, but you're saying in the drive back 19 hours that you had some good quality time.
Oh, absolutely, right. And we had her children, or my grandkids. They were getting a little restless. It's hard for a young child to. 19, we would stop places, but we had some really good quality time and a lot of time to talk.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the most impressive actions I've seen that reflected the intentionality of a dad to connect with his kids and enable other dads to do so, which I thought was pretty amazing. As a dad that was on a hike with me, and he initiated what we called the 940 Project. The dad wanted to be more intentional with the time spent with his teenage kids on the deer lease. The 940 came from another dad that actually had 940 above his fireplace, because 940 are approximately the number of weeks between birth and 18, 940 weeks. So that time goes by a lot more quickly than we like to realize a lot of times. I always say that I reference marbles. I always wanted to give every new dad, a jar of 936, 940 marbles, and take a marble out for each week. And I always say, I was already 400 marbles in the hole when I got my wake-up call to get more engaged. The last half of the, from about 9 on. So our challenge was to really use this time to be more intentional with. You had quantity time on the deer lease. How could we structure that in a way that absolutely complemented what we wanted to accomplish? So there's a good bit of one-on-one time, but to date we've conducted one father-son and 2 father-daughter weekends on the deer lease. And again, the goal was to facilitate a maturing of the father-child relationship as the kids mature, and thanks to one dad's action and intentionality with the support of a few great friends, a number of father-child relationships have been blessed by this unique idea. And share some ideas that you've seen or maybe you've practiced that were initiated, the action, put your money where your mouth is, and the intentionality to convey your faith to your child.
Just finding out, you really want to find out what they like, what they want to do. My daughter had us, she really wanted to go on some trips. So we went to some places and visited some places in the Hill Country and in Austin. I think we went to Green, Texas, and had some trips there. And just, like, as you call it, windshield time, that's a perfect term. As you're driving, is where you spend most of the time. So you find a lot of time just to joke and talk and just get to know one another even better, even though you're fathers, daughters, and you're still getting to know them. They're still getting to know themselves, they're learning who they are. So just times like that, going on trips, I would say, kind of what you described in the deer release, but not a deer release.
Any particular trip jump out at you?
Yeah, the one I was referencing, we went to Green, Texas one time, and went near the Guadalupe, and there was a restaurant we ate at, and I can't remember it. I was trying to remember, but they had we both liked this peppercorn steak that they had, and that always stuck out to me. I've been wanting to go back, and even till now, that was probably, I don't know, 6 years ago, but I still want to go back and try that, and just that obviously sticks out to me. Another time was we went to Austin, and there was this the swimming hole, basically. It's in a quarry, and I forget what it's called, but it's so cold there even during midsummer, and we swam there, and just another time.
Mm-hmm. So those were times that stood out to you, that you got a little bit closer to your daughter or your son or your daughter, and those are the opportunities we have, and it gets tougher and tougher, of course, as our kids mature. I think I have several friends that have kids in their sophomore, junior year in high school, and say, I only have 3 more years left, or 2 more years left, but then they realize in those 2 or 3 years, they're a little bit more tied up with their buddies and their friends, and they want to be hanging out with dad.
Exactly.
So you have to be a little bit more intentional as the kids mature. I always like to encourage dads to look for those. It can be. I had one dad that always took his son to spring training down in Florida. They both love baseball, and they just hang out there together for a week and just take in baseball. Others, we've been involved with father-daughter hiking trips and father-son backpacking trips for the last 10 plus years with a ministry called Voice of Wilderness, where I'm blessed that my daughter comes and still helps me, even though she's married, but she still helps me to run the father-daughter hiking trip in Pagosa Springs, outside Pagosa Springs, Colorado, and that's been a beautiful time for us as father-daughter. But then we have a chance to share our relationship with other father-daughter pairs as well. And as you know, when you check out of the world and check into each other, some beautiful things happen, and we give dads an opportunity to bless their daughters and that type of thing as well. Same on the father-son backpacking trip. My son still is able to help me on the father-son backpacking trip as well. So that's been a neat thing to see dads commit that whole week to check out of the world and check into their relationship with an older child. And these kids can be 14 and up. And I've had a daughter as old as 36 and a son as old as 20, now 30 plus, make these trips. And they've been as young as 14. And either, whatever the age is, it's a marker, on a solid marker on their journey. My daughter and I went on a trip like this when she was 13, and it provided some healing from the early years that I wasn't around as a dad as I should have been, but it also provided a marker in our relationship and proved to be foundational to the way we connected through her teenage years. And so that's something, it doesn't fix anything, but it's a step on the journey that allows us to mature. I was thinking last year she got married May 1st. She just had her first year anniversary in marriage. But walking her down the aisle, I was just struck. But she'll always be my little girl. But I had to let go of her. And I don't know that I could have done that as sincerely, I guess. Maybe I don't know what the right word to be. The letting go is never easy, but the idea that I had to relate to her as a young lady and a young woman. That's if I tried to continue to relate to her as a little girl, I wouldn't have been able to hand her off as I needed to another love of her life besides me.
Right.
So that's kind of always that gut check when dads walk their daughters down the aisle and or watch their son make that decision to move into a new relationship that obviously dad needs to let go. So as we do that, our challenge is to we're able to do that more effectively if we're maturing in relationship with our kids as they mature. So what tips would you give dads at various stages of maturing in relationship with their kids? Any thoughts or comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, relinquish a little bit of control. I mean, obviously not, depending on the age, not too much, but, sometimes just, pray about it and let the Lord do what he's going to do, let him, I know I was referencing a person I know with their father. I grew up with a different woman, and we're still friends to this day, but she was talking about how every time she would ask her father to do something, it was always no. Even if it was something that she would let her 10-year-old brother or 10-year-old younger brother do, walk to the store in a nice neighborhood. No, it was just always no. And it's something I think we should really be careful of, because the more no's we give on things that really aren't that important, we'll see rebellion, And also, I think the biggest tip is be easy on yourself. I mean, we've all made mistakes, Obviously, rectify them any way you can if it's possible, and just asking for forgiveness, like we talked about earlier, is a huge step. And other than that, just be there for them. You might not agree with their decisions. There's a few, of course, I'm sure all of our, as parents, that our kids have made that we didn't necessarily agree with, but as adults, you have to let them do what they're going to do, but just being there for them with love, again, without an agenda.
Mm-hmm. And to take that action, to be engaged. So no, because unless you take the action and are engaged in your child's life, you don't know how far you need to let those reins out.
Right.
And the no may have been a protection because you weren't really engaged to know what they could handle, right?
That's absolutely
true. You pretty well. It's only as mature as a relationship is the level of trust that's granted back and forth. One other tip a dad had told his kids that in middle school, that if they establish trust through those middle school, high school years, with all respecting the curfews and the guidelines of the home and what have you, that if they establish the trust of the parents in their senior year, there would be no curfews, no boundaries whatsoever. And it became quite a challenge that they would get that, what they call a senior year privilege, And the strategy of the dad and mom, of course, was, well, if they fall off the rails, at least they're at home when they fall off the rails.
Yeah.
Versus the next year, if they're off working or off in college, that they fall off the rails and they're away from home and they don't have the chance to be there. I thought that was always an interesting perspective. But through, of course, those years, you are building this relationship, this father-child relationship that understands, I can trust you with this, or I can trust you with the keys.
Yes, sir.
Do you any other comments or suggestions you have for dads on this, to take action and be intentional in connecting with your children?
I mean, I think you covered it. Some of the programs I haven't even heard of that you were talking about, I think those are phenomenal. They sound wonderful. Going out with just checking out of the world and then going somewhere and just shutting everything off except that time to build relationship. I think those are great ideas, and I think every one of us should probably do something, however that looks like in our own lives, but
right.
Something similar.
Now you had the one daughter, which made it easier. You could just focus on her.
Right.
I always, whenever we do a father-daughter retreat or father-child retreat or father-son, I say it's just one. It's you, one-on-one with one child. And some of them, I want to check off the box with all my daughters. No, you don't get to do that. You bring the most senior, or the one that has an opening on their schedule, and then the next year you bring the other one. But that's the whole point, is establishing that one-on-one relationship to where you really know your daughter well, and she knows you, and they know what to expect of each other. So, well, with that, dads, thank you again, Donald, for your time. It's a blessing to have the time with you and the insight that you've shared here. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the honor. I appreciate it.
Well, and so, dads, we're calling you to commit to the action with intentionality needed to mature in relationship with your kids as they mature. That's the dad you're called to be, and that's the dad the next generation needs to see. God bless. Godspeed.